You've been tired for as long as you can remember. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind that lives underneath everything. Underneath the smile, the competence, the "I'm fine." The way you hold it all together so well that no one thinks to ask if you need help. Because no one ever taught you that you're allowed to need help. Somewhere along the way, you became the one who handles things, the one who doesn't ask for too much, the one who earns her place in every room, every relationship, every job. Not because you want to, but because something in your body believes that the moment you stop being useful, you stop being wanted. That belief didn't come from nowhere. It didn't come from a book or a bad day. It was written into your nervous system by the very first people who were supposed to make you feel safe, and couldn't. Today, we're going to meet the part of you that carries that belief, where it started, how it kept you alive, and how it quietly sabotages everything it was trying to protect. And 3 things you can do this week to begin a different relationship with it. Not by fixing it, by finally hearing what it's been trying to tell you. The orphan. The orphan doesn't begin with a dramatic moment. There's no slamming door, no visible scar. It begins with something much quieter. A kitchen table where a child is talking and at some point realizes no one is listening. A mother who is there every morning, who packs the lunch and signs the permission slip, but whose eyes are somewhere else. Not cruel, just gone. Working 2 jobs or drowning inside herself, or simply stretched so thin that presence became a luxury she couldn't afford. Or it begins the day a sibling arrives, and the light in the room shifts. Not away from you, that would be something you could name. It just redistributes. And you learn without anyone teaching you that there is a limited amount of attention in the world, and it has been allocated, and your share just got smaller. No one hit you, no one left, but you heard "not now" more often than any child should. "I'm busy, we'll talk about it later." And later never came. It just quietly dissolved into the next "not now." And when you did feel something, when the tears came, when the anger came, when the need came, you heard, "Don't cry. It's nothing. You're overreacting. Other kids have it worse." So you stopped crying. You stopped asking. And a decision wrote itself into your body. I have to earn my place here, every single day. And from the outside, no one saw a thing. Because the orphan is the child who doesn't look like a child, the one who plays alone and doesn't complain, the one who sits quietly while other kids run and scream, the one adults point to and say, "What a calm child, so easy, so mature, so undemanding." They meant it as a compliment, but what they were describing was a child who had already stopped asking the world for anything. That is where the orphan is born, not in tragedy, in silence. And here is what no one tells you about the orphan. The orphan is not weak. The orphan is the most skilled part of you. It had to be, because no one else was handling it. Think about what you learned to do before you were 10 years old. You learned to scan a room, not look around, scan. Within seconds of walking through a door, you knew who was in a good mood, who wasn't, who was safe to approach, and who to avoid. You read micro-expressions before you knew what a micro-expression was. You could feel tension in a room the way other people feel temperature. Most people would call that hypervigilance, but look at what it actually is. It's mastery. You learned to perform and to disappear, sometimes in the same breath. Helpful, funny, easy, low maintenance, the child who didn't need much. You became the version of yourself that got the warmest response while making yourself so small that you couldn't possibly be a burden to anyone, because burden was the one thing you could not afford to be. And underneath all of it, you developed something extraordinary, an empathy so precise it borders on mind reading. You can walk into a room and feel what everyone is carrying before a single word is spoken. You know when someone is pretending to be fine. You know when a laugh is real and when it's a mask. Other people call this a gift, and it is, but it didn't start as a gift. It started as a survival system. A child who needed to know at every moment whether the world was safe because no one was going to tell her. But survival systems don't know when to stop, and the orphan's protection slowly becomes the orphan's sabotage. It starts with relationships. The orphan steps between you and anyone who gets close, whispering the same thing every time. They will hurt you. It doesn't matter that they haven't. It doesn't matter that they're kind. The orphan has already seen the ending, and it's always the same ending. So, it makes you do more than anyone should have to do. More work, more favors, more proof that you deserve to be here. Or it does the opposite. It makes you shrink, say less, need less, take up so little space that no one could ever accuse you of being too much. And the inner critic, the orphan's most loyal soldier, it doesn't wait for the world to judge you, it gets there first. You said too much. They didn't mean the compliment. Don't get used to this. You even beat it to the punch with humor, calling yourself a mess or too much with a laugh so well-timed that no one hears the child underneath who believed it first. And sometimes, the orphan shows up on the surface too, in the way you dress to not be noticed, in the colors you don't wear, in the corner of the room you always choose. Cinderella in worn-out clothes by the fire, in a house full of people who never once looked. And when connection gets close, really close, the orphan plays its oldest card. You pull back, you stop reaching, you let the silence grow. Or you go the other direction, build a life so airtight that no one can get in. I don't need anyone. And it sounds like strength, but strength doesn't keep you awake at night, wondering why everyone else seems to have something you can't name. And there's one more thing the orphan does, maybe the most human thing of all. It searches for the adult it never had, a grandmother who actually sees you, a teacher who keeps you after class, not because you're in trouble, but because she noticed. Later, a partner, a mentor, someone who feels like safety. The orphan finds them and quietly adopts itself to them, devotes, becomes the perfect daughter, the perfect partner, the perfect protege. Not out of love, out of hunger. And when that person can't fill what was never filled, and they can't because no one can raise a child retroactively, the original wound opens all over again. That isn't who you are. It's who you had to be. And the difference between those two things is where healing begins. So what do you do with a part that has been running the show since before you could read? You don't fix it. You can't, because it was never broken. It was built, carefully, intelligently, by a child who had no other options. And you don't fight it. Every time you try to push the orphan down, stop being so sensitive, just get over it, you are doing to yourself exactly what was done to you. Integration starts with the thing the orphan never received, a witness, not a rescuer, not a fixer, just someone who says, I see you, I know why you did all of this, and you don't have to do it alone anymore. And here is the part that changes everything. That someone is you. Not the you who is scanning, not the you who is performing, the you who is here, right now, listening to this. The adult. The one the orphan has been searching for in every partner, every mentor, every person who felt like safety. That adult was always here, waiting for you to turn inward instead of outward. What does that look like in practice? It looks like feeling the pull to disappear and choosing to stay. Not reacting, choosing. That is the difference between the orphan running your life and the orphan being a part of your life. One is a reflex, the other is a relationship. And the orphan, when it is finally met by the one person it has been waiting for all along, doesn't disappear. It transforms. The scanning becomes intuition. The performing becomes genuine generosity. The empathy that was built for survival becomes a gift you give freely, not to earn your place, but because it's who you are. The orphan doesn't need to be cured, it needs to be parented by you. What you've just heard has a name. That child, the one carrying a belief so deep it lives in the body, not the mind. Psychologists who study the inner world call that an exile. Not because it was banished by someone else, because the pain it carried was too much for the system to hold. The strategies that organized around it, the overwork, the withdrawal, the critic, the search for safety in other people, those are protectors. In a framework called internal family systems, they are not flaws, they are loyalty. Parts of you that made sure you would never feel that invisible again. And that instant body reaction, the chest tightening before you walk into a room, the stomach dropping when someone doesn't text back, the science of the nervous system calls that a safety decision made below conscious awareness. Your body learned, very early, to scan for danger, faster than thought, faster than reason. Knowing the names doesn't fix the pattern, but the next time your stomach drops, you can say, that's the exile, that's the child at the kitchen table, and I, the adult, am here now. The name makes you the one who sees it, and that is where everything begins. 3 things you can start this week. None of them require understanding anything I just said. They only require 5 seconds of honesty. The first one is the simplest. The next time the wave hits, after a conversation that drained you, after a silence that felt like rejection, don't replay what happened. Ask yourself one quiet question. How old was I just now? Don't think about it. Let the answer arrive. It usually comes as a feeling, not a number. 7, 12, 15. Whatever age surfaces, that's the part that was driving. This works because naming the age creates a gap. When the orphan is running the show, there is no gap. You and the pattern are the same thing. But the moment you can say, that was the 12-year-old, gently, without judgment, the adult becomes visible again. And the adult has options the child never had. One question, after, not during. Let the answer come in its own time. Once you have that, once you know who was driving, there's a second thing worth trying. Ask, what would I say to that child right now? Not advice, not a pep talk. What would the caring adult, the one she never had, actually say? And then say it, silently or out loud. It might be, I'm here. You don't have to earn anything right now. It might be nothing, just a hand on your own chest, breathing, letting the body know that someone is home. 5 seconds, that's all. Your hand on your chest sends a signal your nervous system understands before your mind does. The same signal a child receives when someone holds them, except this time you are the one holding. And when the pattern still comes, and it will, because patterns this old don't leave quietly, there's one more thing worth knowing. Once a week, reach out to someone with no reason, no question to ask, no favor to request, just, I thought of you, or this reminded me of our conversation, something with no transaction attached. The orphan learned that connection must be earned, that you need a reason to take up someone's time, that reaching out without justification is asking too much. One message, no reason, once a week. You are not trying to prove anything. You are giving that younger part new evidence that the world is not what it was at the kitchen table. None of these ask you to become a different person. They ask one thing, that the adult decides, not the child at the table. What you've been carrying isn't a flaw. It's an old signal, a system your body built when you were too small to build anything better. All of it was built to protect you, and it did. But the danger it was built for is over, and the system doesn't know that yet. Every story that ever moved you starts here, with the one who was left behind. Oliver Twist holding out an empty bowl, asking for the one thing a child should never have to ask for: more. Cinderella kneeling by the fire in a house full of people who never once looked. Jane Eyre walking through the cold, choosing dignity over a home that was never really hers. Moses floating in a river, untethered from everything. Frodo carrying a weight no one else could carry, further than anyone thought he could go. Harry Potter in a cupboard under the stairs, waiting for someone to remember he exists. The storytellers knew, long before psychology had a name for it, that the deepest transformation doesn't begin with strength. It begins with the one who wasn't chosen, and chose themselves anyway. That is the orphan's gift. Not just survival, not just empathy, the capacity to build a home inside yourself when the world didn't offer one, to become the adult that the child needed, to turn the very thing that broke you into the thing that makes you irreplaceable. The fact that you're here means something in you is ready. Not ready to be fixed, ready to be met. If you felt something today, that's a signal worth following. Subscribe. I'll see you there.